Hi, I'm Shaye Larkin and thank you for visiting. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I'm a bankruptcy attorney here in San Francisco, and for more than 20 years now I've helped my clients file Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy cases. In this video, I'm going to talk about restoring your life and your credit after bankruptcy. If you're fresh out of bankruptcy, you may be wondering, where do I go from here? Well, if it's been a while since you've relied on credit cards, then life after bankruptcy may not be much different than it was before, except for the fact that your mailbox isn't going to be flooded with those pesky bills and statements each month. But if you have recently been relying on credit cards and other types of debt as your safety net, then life after bankruptcy is going to be a little scary for a while, especially if you're self-employed. And what you need to do now is create your own safety net with your own money and only rely on that when you need to. And if you happen to use your safety net, then you have to pay it back just like you would a regular credit card. The way you're going to get this safety net is by saving money. And I know you're probably thinking, well, how do I save money? I am barely getting by as it is. Well, to save money, you need to either, one, increase your income, or two, decrease your expenses, or three, do a combination of both. Let's talk about ways that you can increase your income. If you have any time in your schedule, there are things you can do to bring money in. At the very least, you can recycle. There are places where you could take your recyclables and get paid cash for things that you're throwing away. You could also sell things on Craigslist that you don't need anymore. You could, if you have a car and like to drive, you could drive part-time for Uber. That's not something I could do because I'm a very nervous driver, but if you happen to enjoy driving, then that might be something that you could do to make extra money. And even if you don't have a car, I know Uber and Lyft have ways that you can rent a car through them and still make a profit by driving. So that's a possible solution. You could do focus groups. They're always advertising focus groups on Craigslist. You could do substitute teaching. Now, I love kids. I can't live my life without kids. So one thing that I do in my spare time is I do substitute teaching. And it's a way that I could be around kids, and it's also a way for me to have regular income because bankruptcy is not always busy. It's up and down, just like the economy. So substitute teaching is really the best of both worlds for me. And maybe that's something you can do if you like kids and if you have some experience teaching others. It doesn't necessarily have to be experience teaching kids, but if you've taught adults, you could use that as experience when applying for a substitute teaching position. So those are just a few ways you could increase your income. There's many ways, and let's talk now about ways to decrease your expenses. I have made a list of what has worked for me in the past and things that I know people are doing in the present nowadays to help them budget. You can rely on my list or you can make your own. Everyone's different, so what's on my list may not work for you. Here's my list of suggestions. Number one, the most important thing is to set financial goals, and your financial goals need to be realistic but not too easy to reach either. So set those financial goals as a start. This is how much I want to have saved by the end of the month. This is how much I want to have saved by the end of 6 months, etc. Okay, so also download an app that helps you manage your money, and there's a lot of them out these days. I'm seeing advertisements on TV. There's something called Truebill. I haven't looked into whether or not that one is really reputable. I see it a lot on TV. One that is really reputable is Mint. So you might look into Mint. There's one that's called Cash Wallet, I think it's called. There's a bunch of them out right now. You don't have to try just one. You could try a few of them and see which one you like best. You can download a coupon code app so that when you buy things online, it searches for a coupon code for you to offset the cost of whatever you're buying. You could ride your bike. If your destination is within 4 miles, I would always suggest, if possible, ride a bike rather than drive or take public transportation. That's not possible for everyone, but if it's possible for you, that would be my suggestion. And if you don't have a bike, buy one secondhand. Craigslist has bikes for sale. You could grow your own vegetables. Here in San Francisco, a lot of people do that from their apartments. There's ways to grow your own vegetables that don't take up a lot of space, and then you can save money too. You can cook at home instead of going out to eat at restaurants. And here in San Francisco, there are people who go out to eat every single day, and that is just really, really expensive. You can obtain virtually any recipe online, and we have so many great cooking tools these days. I just bought a Ninja Foodie. It's a pressure cooker and an air fryer combined, and I just love it. You could do all kinds of interesting things with that. So cook at home instead of going out to eat. Also, bring your lunches to work. As a bankruptcy attorney, I get to see my clients' expenses and what they spend each month on things like lunches, and I see that my clients often buy their lunches at work. And when I teach, I always bring my own lunch, and that's primarily because I have a lot of food sensitivities, but it's also because it really makes good financial sense. So if you can bring your lunch to work, then do so. And you can make up your lunches ahead of time when you have time on your day off. That way you don't have to worry about doing it in the morning when you're in a rush. Along the same vein, you can make your own lattes instead of going to Starbucks. You could use Skype, FaceTime, or Zoom instead of making long-distance phone calls. Well, are cell phone companies still charging for long distance? Because it seems to me that a lot of long-distance plans are free with the monthly cell phone package, but I don't know. If it costs you money to make a phone call, then use FaceTime or Zoom or what's the other one, Skype instead. And that would also save you transportation costs too, because instead of driving across the bay and paying a bridge toll to go see your bestie, you could instead visit them on FaceTime, for example. Buy generic, go to matinees instead of evening movies. That will save you some money. Take fewer trips to the store. Pay attention to how much things cost per unit by reading the shelf tags at the store, and buy only what's on sale. Consolidate your student loans. Use free ATMs. Never pay money to get money if you can avoid it at all costs. Shop around for cheaper car insurance. 15 minutes really does save you $15 or more. Let's see, check www.gasbuddy.com for the cheapest gas in your area before heading out to fill your tank. And consider getting rid of your car altogether. I went without a car for 13 years, and it wasn't easy, but you can learn to live without your car. I did buy a car about a year ago, and I don't regret it. I'm glad that I did it. It was the right time, and I do know now that I can live without it. But after living without a car for a long time, I decided it was finally the right time to get one. We'll talk about that later when we get to restoring your credit after bankruptcy. So those are my suggestions on ways to save money, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. Your situation is different than mine, and what works for me might not work for you. So make your own list, put your creative energy to work, and see what you can come up with. Now let's talk about rebuilding your credit. The first thing you need to do after bankruptcy, when you start thinking about rebuilding your credit, is to check your credit report for errors and make sure you correct every single error that you see. You can correct errors by reporting the errors to each of the 3 credit reporting bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It's not hard to do, and I might make a video on this later just so it's even easier, but each of the 3 credit reporting bureaus has instructions on how to report errors on their websites as well as on the printed credit report. Now, not everyone wants to rebuild their credit right after bankruptcy. If you do nothing over time, your credit will get better on its own because the bad stuff over time is going to gradually drop off. But if you want to rebuild your credit, you could certainly start right after bankruptcy. So you check your credit and report errors. Every single one of the debts that was discharged in your bankruptcy should reflect that on the credit report. And if it doesn't, then that's a creditor that's going to continue dinging your credit each month, and it needs to be fixed. You can register at creditkarma.com. There are similar websites out there that help you with rebuilding your credit these days. I've been registered with Credit Karma for many years. I love them. They offer great tools on how to rebuild your credit, as well as suggested credit cards that you can apply for. Now, it's going to be hard to get an unsecured credit card right after bankruptcy. The major credit card companies are probably not going to give you an unsecured credit card. But all is not lost because there is the great secured credit card option. And nowadays there are even secured credit cards that offer airline miles. So this is a card you could use just like a regular credit card. And the way it works is you have to give the bank a security deposit, usually around $250, and then they give you a line of credit that's probably something small to start, like $300. And after a year of making timely monthly payments, they'll probably increase that, and you'll also be rebuilding your credit, so you're probably going to get offers from other credit card companies for unsecured credit cards after, I would say, about a year or maybe a little more. You have to work at it and don't use more than a third of the available credit at any one time, because if you use more than a third, then it actually hurts your credit. So use not more than a third of the credit available and make regular monthly payments, either by paying it all off each month or making regular payments each month without paying it off but still making the required monthly payment. And you will see your credit score build and build. Another way to rebuild your credit is by getting a car loan, but you have to be careful with this. It's a lot easier than you might think. There are car dealerships that pay people to go through the bankruptcy court docket and look for people who have just received their discharge in bankruptcy, and then they send these people an offer to come on down to their dealership because they specialize in helping people rebuild their credit. Well, be very careful about this because some of these dealerships are really trying to take advantage, and they're going to charge you an unreasonable interest rate. Shop around and make sure you get a good interest rate. They might think you're desperate, but you are not going to be desperate, and you're going to do your shopping and your research, and don't get stuck. Don't get back into the same trap again, so be careful with that. It's not hard to get a car loan compared to getting an unsecured credit card, which is really hard after bankruptcy, but you do have to be more careful because car loans tend to be a lot bigger, so you can get into trouble that way. What about renting an apartment? Well, you may be worried that no one is going to rent to you because you have a bankruptcy on your credit report, and that's really not true. My advice would be to start out with a smaller landlord, not the big conglomerate landlord, but someone that maybe just has a room to rent or a single apartment. You'll have a better chance, and if you know your credit is going to be checked, then you can give the potential landlord a heads up by telling them, you're going to see a bankruptcy on my credit report, but whatever you want to tell them, it's up to you. You don't have to tell them too much, but you could tell them for sure that this was a way for you to rebuild your credit, and now you have no debt. You've been relieved of your debt, and so you are actually a better risk than someone who has not filed bankruptcy and has a lot of debt. And I actually think a landlord would rather see a bankruptcy on a credit report with only discharged debt than no bankruptcy and a lot of debt that has not been paid off. So don't worry too much about this. If the landlord is still squeamish after you've explained what happened with your bankruptcy and how this is helping you to have more income each month, you can always offer the landlord a higher security deposit as a way to allay their concerns. So those are my suggestions about restoring your life and your credit after bankruptcy. There's a lot of information on this on the internet. Do your research, be careful, and don't get back into debt all over again. All right, so thank you for watching and have a great day and good luck.